Hello, 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 everybody,
Yep.
and welcome to our schools out, or sorry, not schools
Oh, I
out.
can see your
We're
light
summer
total.
school.
Okay.
Lorian, help me out. I
Okay.
need to go back to
I
school. I don't know where we
so you can
are.
see that. Okay.
It's
All
kind of late
right.
for
All
summer
right.
school, but
So I'll
You
set
yeah,
this
know,
up.
let's
Give
do
me
it.
one
for
sec.
Texas, I feel like the answer to that is yes, but there's some,
I'll go
schools on
first,
the
right?
East Coast or maybe that
Oh
haven't
yeah,
quite
yeah.
started
You
yet.
went for, yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
That sounds
All
right.
right.
And colleges
I'll play
too.
Yep.
Brushland.
So, all right, well,
The game has begun.
summer school, there's never a wrong time for Magic, so I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, we've got Ty Thompson on the left here and Ryan Linda on the right here. Starting off with some Magic. Now, Lorian, you've looked at these deck lists a lot more than I have.
which is very briefly, but yeah, I can go through
I think I just grabbed them and sent them to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I always like anytime I host one of these, I love looking at the decks in advance just to, know what the hell is going on.
Yep.
Ty is on an Alluren build. I always feel a little lost looking at these. I mean, it's got Living Wish, so it's got all kinds of options in the sideboard. Plays Cabal Therapy. Some
Yep.
play Force of Will instead. It's got a couple Rectors, which is obviously good with Cabal Therapy and Alluren. So looking to do some kind of infinite combo. I see Spike Feeder, so probably like Infinite Life, and then maybe some kind of kill card.
Infinite Life's almost good enough in middle school. There's
For
very few
many
infinite
decks,
damage
yeah.
combos.
Yes. And then Ryan is on, I think, a similar deck that he played last league, which is like a green-white prison deck with Tangle Wire, Sphere of Resistance, Winter Orb, Black Vice.
Sure, yeah, he's already gone with a Mox Diamond and a Root Maze, so he's definitely starting off sending a message.
Yeah, so I remember watching this deck last league, and it can get a pretty good lock. So Root Maze, all artifacts and lands come into play tapped. If he can drop a Winter Orb here, a Winter Orb will come into play tapped. That's the awkward thing about Root Maze. I remember that from the last time I watched this deck. So Ty, he's just going according to plan. He's got a Birds of Paradise, Wall of Roots, the depletion land there. So he'll have quite a bit of mana next turn.
Chad is pointing out that he's playing Root Maze because Ryan has too many friends. So we're trying to even things out.
Yeah, thin out their numbers, I guess.
Yeah. Now, Birds of Paradise and these creature mana sources are going to help against Root Maze. It just depends on how many time draws up here.
Yes. I have not given this matchup very much thought, so I don't know who exactly is favored here.
Well,
I guess, yeah.
I mean, so my first instinct is that Alluren, if you're playing against a prison game and wants the game to go long, inevitability probably favors you because if you just get to on top with 4 mana, you've had all these turns to draw cards, and suddenly you just win the game. So Ryan has to put on pressure somehow.
Right, which I remember watching his deck last time. It didn't, at least in those games, he didn't do a very good job of really applying much pressure. I mean, what is his pressure? Main deck Black Vice, and
Yep. He's got a couple of them in hand. We'll see. So he's got the Black Vice, and he's got 2 of them. Those are pretty important if Ty's not going to be casting spells. We probably cash this in and take both of them.
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
Half the win conditions. Sure. Yeah.
Yes. And Ryan he sent me a deck list, but he said that deck list is actually from last week. He's changed a few cards. Okay. So hard to know what list he's playing.
He just scooped that up. Okay.
I can understand that. I mean, he was not in a very good spot there at all.
Wow. So was that all of the win conditions, or?
God, maybe so. That would be crazy if he's just playing 2 Black Vice. Last league, he was playing a single Exalted Angel and a single Karn main deck. So I don't know. I like to see decks on like 6 win conditions. If you're just doing a 4 of, or less than that, I mean, you're really it can be tough to draw them, and you're sort of asking, if you get disrupted like that, it can be a real problem. I think the only other deck I can think of that plays so few win conditions is Stasis. Stasis oftentimes will play
Yes.
3 Black Vice and that's it, but obviously has a lot of card draw, gets a very solid lock going on. So
It does. It's got the card draw. It's got the counter magic. In blue-white, we don't have card draw without, something like Scroll Rack. And we don't have counter magic. So, like, we interact with the
green,
board.
white, yeah.
Yeah,
For
so
sure.
having only 4 win conditions, I'm right there with you. That seems suspect. But, if we don't have the exact deck list, then who knows? Maybe it was just unlucky, right? I mean, if you're only going to include that many win conditions, how often do you expect to have half of them in your opener and then immediately get punished? Because all Ryan had to do was untap and cast both of them.
Right, and he maybe that was a bit of frustration too. With he could have played them earlier, he decided not to, and then he got punished pretty severely for not playing them. But I mean, they don't do much good in the early games. You really have to set the lock up first. It seems like his deck is trying to like sprint to that part, like just get out the lock as quickly as possible, and
Sure.
then getting down the Black Vice is kind of academic after that.
Yep. Yeah. Well, maybe Ryan just didn't want to reveal any more information, and said, "Hey, look, you got these. Maybe I'll concede and let you think those are what's happening, and then maybe try to snipe game 2 and then get game 3." But Ryan also may not know what Ty's doing. I mean, we just saw format standard, right? We saw
That's
standard
true.
birds, we saw Cabal Therapy, and we saw a wall. So I mean, that could be the rock as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, the depletion land is the only giveaway that it's Alluren, I think.
Sure.
But I mean, the Rock could play that card theoretically. I wouldn't, but you could. It wouldn't be insane too.
It's interesting because, as we all know and love, the mana bases in middle school are terrible. And we've had many discussions about Alluren specifically about how do you build the mana base for that deck. And if anyone's paid attention in our Discord group, then they might know exactly what's going on. But if they haven't, then like this land could show up pretty much anywhere someone thinks they just want, more green mana, because the mana bases are so bad. Maybe this is just where we landed on. Like, that's entirely conceivable.
Right. Yeah, and I think I've been calling this a depletion land. I think it's actually a sack land, so you can sack it and get 2 green. I think
Oh, yeah. So the is out of Fallen Empires or something, right? Originally, and then reprinted.
Yes, something Battleground. I'm trying to like zoom
David
in
Wood
on the
Battleground, I
text there.
believe.
Okay, yeah, that sounds right. So sideboard, Ty gets 3 copies of Pernicious Deed, which I don't know. If he knows, like if he's seen Ryan's deck before, that seems like a reasonable add-on. Because there's just so much stuff in Ryan's deck that he would just want to get rid of. Although, Pernicious Deed kind of runs counter to the Alluren and small creature plan. So that's an interesting... I wonder what he's bringing that in specifically against, if he's worried about something that he feels like he needs 3 copies of that. What's your opinion on that?
So, knowing how powerful Deed is in the format, which is bonkers, it is a format pillar. And then looking at Ty's deck, the biggest impact is it's going to hit maybe Wall of Roots, Wall of Blossoms, and his birds. But, we're not going to play Mesmeric Fiends too early if we think we're going to be deeding away stuff. And it's not that big of a deal to sacrifice a Wall of Roots or birds to cast this deed and activate it. If, we saw Ryan's hands and what he played, and everything cost 1 or less. So this deed, for 1, only gets the birds and still leaves your Wall of Roots or your Mesmeric Fiend if you want. So I think for what it actually gains, it's absolutely worth, bringing in, and I'll sacrifice the birds if it means getting rid of, all of these lock pieces, just so I can then untap and slam an Alluren, and then everything's fair game.
Okay, you've convinced me. All right, so he should be bringing that in.
Yeah, I mean, I would, right? Because if the game wants to go long, that just favors me, and I want to bring in as many ways to stop Sphere of Resistance as possible,
Yes,
because that does
absolutely.
stop my combo. And looking at the rest of the board, there are 4 things in the board that stop it. Only one of which, or only 3 of which will actually answer what's in play. So here we are. Here's the Sphere of Resistance. So we're gonna just take our time. I mean, we've got these sack lands, so we can cast something for a lot of mana and get around the sphere if we need to for one. Main deck, I see maybe 1 card. I guess we have some of these wish packages, maybe. No, I think it's just these deeds that get rid of this, right?
Yeah, is there any
Yeah.
kind of... Yeah,
No creatures that bounce
no
permanents.
orangutan.
No orangutan. All right, so now we have 3 Tangle Wire. Okay, well, we weren't casting spells anyway, so this Tangle Wire is, kind of whatever. But I think Ty's is going to take draw steps.
I can see why Ryan did that. He theoretically Ty could have cast Alluren that last turn if he had another land or something. So
Sure.
It's a prison deck. He's got to just avoid losing the game to any number of outs that Ty could have.
Well, it certainly prevents Ty from casting anything anytime soon. I mean, I guess all we needed without the Tango Wire was a swamp, and we could cast this deed. And I don't think there's a way for Ryan to get that off the table. And now with this Wasteland, we're going to really make sure that Ryan is ahead on this, mana exchange here. Now, It looks like, so Ryan's lands are Wasteland, Mishra's Factory, City of Traders, and then the Forsaken Ruin? Is that?
Forsaken City. Yeah.
Forsaken City, okay. I'm going to remind myself of the Oracle text there, because I know that exists, but I don't ever see it played enough.
Stasis, I think, is really the only time you see it. So I believe it's at upkeep, you exile a card from your hand to untap it. So in a pinch, you can get a little extra mana.
Sure. So it's a rainbow land. We can exile cards we're not casting in our hand to untap it, which makes sense because we played the City of Traders, so we're not planning on casting any additional land anytime soon, unless it's maybe another City of Traders. But it's also the only green mana source at the moment. So I'm not sure what Ryan's other colored cards are, but I know we've seen Root Maze. Are there other green cards in here, perhaps?
Well, there's he gets 4 Oath of Druids out of the sideboard, which I think is probably a pretty solid plan against Alluren. Obviously, like, you could, even if you had an Neshoba, you could still lose to an infinite Alluren combo.
You can,
but it's going to present a pretty fast clock, and Ty probably doesn't have too many ways outside of Mana War to deal with something like that. So I wonder if I would assume that Ryan brought them in, but it doesn't seem like he's even willing to let Ty do anything.
I think the trick with Oath of Druids here is that you have to snipe Ty with them. You can't play them proactively.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
Ryan made that mistake the last time we covered. He put one out early, and I believe it was David Gleischer just waited until he was in a situation, where he could kind of go off.
Yeah, that's what I think the risk here. And at least with Alluren, going off usually means winning the game. And yeah, you're right. Neshoba attacks for 7, but that doesn't matter if your opponent's at 1 million. Or if you're dead. That too.
Yeah, right.
If you don't even get your Oath trigger.
So Ryan's got a pretty good luck here. He's got Wasteland up, and he can decide, if he wants to pop one of Ty's land in Ty's upkeep. Yep. He's in a good spot. It's awkward to attack with Mishra's Factory. It's a little awkward with Winter Orb, but he's set up. Like, if he had some way to do chip damage, if he had a Black Vice right now,
sure,
he'd be pretty locked to win, I think.
Well, this Tangle Wire is going to disappear, but it's already done its damage with the Winter Orb. I think using the City of Traders to activate Mishra's Factory and just start attacking may start to make sense here. You can waste one of these lands here away. And then, still have some advantage, but I don't think that's going to buy Ryan all of the turns.
Well, the problem is Winter Orb, so if you're tapping City of Traders to attack with Mishra's Factory, you only get to untap one of those.
That's
It's not
fair.
really, yeah, it's not something you can do every turn.
Yeah.
But Ty's completely locked out. He's discarded a hand size twice now.
Yeah. Especially behind that sphere. I mean, sphere's going to mean that he can't just combo, like cast an Alluren and then get to cast some Mana Dorks. That's kind of Ty's way out here at the moment. All right, what is this Urza Saga card? Is this oh man, I know it, but I don't know it.
Umbilicus. During each player's upkeep, that player either loses 2 life or has to return a permanent they control to their hand.
Yes.
So Ty's probably going to take 2 life for a while here until he can't anymore.
Yeah. And that's going to be our, chip damage like you were talking about. Yep. Very little mana investment involved here. We're going to get to untap at least 2 lands. We can untap the City Traders and then untap Forsaken City. Should we want to.
I'm not sure how many cards Ryan has in hand.
We're just going to play City Traders we're going to untap the City Traders, okay. Chat is saying we should bounce the Tangle Wire.
Yeah, let's see if...
yeah, bounce it with
Ryan
Umbilicus, and then that is a lock, right?
I mean, I think that's why you play Umbilicus. That's half the reason why you play it.
Yep.
Like chip damage, yeah, but like being able to do Tangle Wire,
sure,
to bounce it back is pretty good. So
I mean, that makes sense. Tangle Wire has no more counters on it, so we stack our triggers so that we bounce Tangle Wire before it disappears to fading.
Yeah, Ryan's thinking about bouncing the City of Traders, maybe because he has something in hand he wants to play for 2 mana. If he has the patience, then he can just bounce the Tangle Wire and cast it next turn.
So let's say if he bounces Tangle Wire and then he can untap a City of Traders and then pitch a card to Forsaken City and still cast his Tangle Wire if he really wants to.
If he has another land, because the sphere is out, right?
Right. Yeah.
Oh,
Sphere symmetrical. We're gonna bounce sphere? No, you're gonna he's gonna recast it, is what he's gonna do. But that means he's gonna give up his Tangle Wire, which I guess is fine. We have this Winter Orb, but now we can like untap a green source and then maybe it gets Wasteland is tapped. We're gonna untap the Forsaken City. Okay.
Is he gonna play another Tangle Wire? Like, is that he just wants to keep Ty locked down? What is
but I think we need that sphere to stop more Mana Dorks from coming out, because I think the way Ryan kind of loses this is if Ty can untap and cast another Bird's Paradise, or or now even a Wall of Roots without the sphere in play. So that, and then Ty kind of has access to his mana and then can start building a board presence. And honestly, all it's going to take is, get a 2/2 on here, or get a 3/3, which there aren't really any in Ty's deck, but find something we can start attacking with, maybe, and then it really hinders the mana sources for Ryan, because he has to keep this Mishra's back and can't really risk tapping it. All right, well, Tangle Wire is going to solve all problems right now. And allow Ryan to untap and make new decisions.
All right, so I understand that sequence. So it looks kind of awkward. But what the state that Ryan was trying to get to was cast a fresh Tangle Wire this turn, which he wouldn't have been able to do if he bounced. There was no way to get 4 mana for that with the sphere. Right. So he sacrificed 1 Tangle Wire. He already has 1 in hand. He can bounce that later with Umbilicus and keep going. Yep. So Ty is... If Ty has like an untapped land and a birds, that's how Ryan gets punished worse here. The worst. Otherwise, but I think he bounced the tower back to his hand with the Umbilicus. Is that just what happened? Because I don't see it in play anymore.
I'm assuming that's what's going on.
Yeah.
You do get to return a permanent, which is going to be real good because Ryan will be able to return a soul land to his hand and then untap a different land.
Yeah, that's sweet. That's
Yep. And conceivably,
so that is how
even-
you attack with Mishra's Factory every turn. That's how you do it.
Yep. So that in and of itself is can be a win condition. Ryan has access to 4 mana next turn. He can untap, I don't know, Mishra's Factory, bounce Soul Land to his hand, and then pitch a card to Forsaken City, and then replay the city of traders, and he'll have 4 mana next turn. Now, what's he going to do with it? I don't know. We've already played our 4-drop. We know we have a sphere in hand.
Yeah, probably replaying Sphere is the play, I would guess, because like chip damage right now doesn't matter that much. You just want to get a really solid lock. So replaying Sphere, probably just like untapping the Soul Land, replaying Sphere is gonna put, or yeah, bouncing the Soul Land, untapping the Wasteland, bouncing the Soul Land, replaying the Sphere. I think is where you want to be at.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. I think you can even leave Wasteland untapped and then just start untapping all your land and maybe even waste your opponent here.
Oh.
I mean, your opponent kind of like under this Tangle Wire. We tap all 3 of those. That's going to tap the Winter Orb, which, if I'm not mistaken, turns off.
It turns off. It has been errata to specifically be if it's tapped, it doesn't work. But I mean, again, I think Ty is in a pretty bad spot. Yeah, Ty will have to tap 3 permanents now. So he's completely under Tangle Wire anyway. So that's it's an unintuitive play, but it did work out.
Well, okay, so if we don't play Sphere here, if we're not playing Sphere, then we will need to hope that we don't just play Swamp or Black Source into Cabal Therapy.
Yeah, right.
Because that is absolutely something Ty can do in his deck. That could be a problem for Ryan if he's not careful. I mean, we know we've stripped the Black Source on the table, and we know that at least we'll tap the black mana source, and then he'll be able to recast one of these lands. He can bounce it to his hand and play it again. But with what's on the table, but yeah, right now, that could be. Chat says he's playing the Sphere. I'd like to see with what mana. If maybe I'm not keeping track of things well enough, but with what mana is he?
He bounced the Soul Land back to his hand, so he's got the
City
Traders in his hand, so he can choose. I would assume that he's just going to play.
So he did that at upkeep. Are we going to play the Sphere and then say go? Or
I think that's the play, and then you untap or no, you bounce the Soul Land and then play the Black Vice for 2.
Yeah, I think that makes. Oh, we have another Soul Land. Okay, so we still have City of Traders in hand. Ryan's going to take 2, but he's going to cast this Sphere, and I think that is good enough to keep Ty completely. Oh, there's a window, Lorian. There is a window brewing here. We have 1 mana floating.
All right, let's see it.
Okay, Ty is going to take 2. He wants to keep his permanents on the battlefield. It looks like. Okay. I really want to see the snipe of the Sphere here. I want to see the Black Source. Mostly just because I want to see more cards from Ty. But I would appreciate a game 3, so maybe that's not what happens this time.
Yeah, I'm not sure. What's clear to me about this deck that I'm pretty sure is like pretty unique to Ryan. Like I think this is his homebrew as far as I know. It's a complicated deck. There's lots of lines, and like
there are.
When you sort of you start trying to get down the chip damage versus versus play more prison pieces, it's a tough decision. I would guess that the place where Ryan is at is, okay, all the permits are going to be tapped down with Tango Wire. I'm safe. But yeah, without that sphere, he could play green source birds. Ty could play green source birds or black source Cabal Therapy and
Looks
start to
like
work his
Ty
way.
took some
No,
time to sort out life totals and then draw the next card. Did not draw either of the two cards I was thinking he could draw, either Black Source into Cabal Therapy to stop that sphere. So yeah, Ty is going to scoop it up there. Successfully locked out. And cool. So Ryan did I think what he hoped to do, just concede quickly and snap off the next one.
Yes. Yeah. And I appreciate the early concessions. I mean, I think if Ty couldn't do something that turn, then Ryan was going to play Sphere next turn.
Sure.
And then Ty would be, I think, legitimately locked out, especially with being able to bounce Tangle Wire eventually and replay it and just do that loop.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely agree there. I think Ty had a window, maybe two, to come out of this and just didn't have the cards in hand, but I'm not sure Ryan needed to be as aggressive there. I think he could have kept the lock. Obviously, it did not backfire, so, there we go.
Yeah, but he as far as we know, he left a small window, a small possibility for Ty to win, and that oftentimes can be the difference between getting into a top 8 or winning a tournament, or those small little plays, that you have to make the right decision in those situations.
The fewer chances, the fewer chances you give your opponent to be lucky, the better.
Absolutely.
So Ty's bringing another card in, it seemed. So I'm curious to know, what card is he bringing in that he left out? It does appear he has some mana sources in his board. Maybe he's just bringing in more mana sources.
So he's playing the most lands I think I've ever seen somebody who plays a Living Wish sideboard. He's playing Phyrexian Tower, Volrath's Stronghold, and Gemstone Mine all on the sideboard. So 3 slots. He could easily be bringing in an extra land or two just to help get out from under all of the prison pieces that Ryan has going on.
Do you think there's a world in which we just, take out the requisite number of Living Wishes and board in all of those lands just to have more lands to draw?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, just like thinking about how these games would typically go, it doesn't seem like, if you knew Ryan's list, the thing is he could totally be on Swords to Plowshares. He is not, but he could be. And so that kind of leaves the way open for Ty to just do whatever he wants. There's really no interaction that Ryan has. It's just prison pieces to keep Ty from doing anything. But once Ty does it, executes his plan, there's no disruption there.
Right.
So he could probably just board out all the Living Wishes and would be fine. Just add in lands and, go up to what he's on 22 lands, go up to 25 with 4 birds and 2 Wall of Roots. That seems pretty good against a, mana choking prison deck.
Sure. Yeah, because I think those are easy removals. And then, finding room for these deeds, because I still think the path to victory for Ty here is a deed.
Absolutely.
So worth noting, normally I'm an aficionado of the basic mountain variety, and one of the constant questions that we always have to ponder is price of progress good in this format or bad? And if you look at today's opponents on the field right now, you'd say price of progress is incredible.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because, we were talking about how mana bases are strained, and Ty is forced to not have a single basic in his 75, it appears. And of course, Ryan is playing as many non-basic colorless lands as possible. All right, and he's going to start off with a Sphere of Resistance.
Turn 1 Sphere. He plays the Mox, so he does it first, so he doesn't have to pay the Sphere tax later on.
Sure.
So that's, pretty ideal. I think Ryan's deck is not nearly as good on the draw, but this is how it comes back from that is it can play a turn 1 sphere of resistance, which I think is pretty critical. If you let your opponent get a free turn 2, you're really asking for a lot of trouble. Things like Wall of Roots, I think, would probably be the worst card that Ryan wouldn't want to see on turn 2.
Yeah, Wall of Roots.
Or a Mesmeric Fiend would be good as well.
Mesmeric Fiend would be great. I think Wall of Roots is phenomenal because it doesn't require tapping to activate, which means you just suddenly have these free mana sources despite the tax. Notably, Ty doesn't have a turn 1 or turn 2 play under the sphere. So maybe he was keeping the hand based off of a Wall of Roots, and maybe he's just also keeping turn 3 Pernicious Deed. If we can just resolve this Pernicious Deed, then that's like half the battle right there. Then we can play around, nuke half these permanents. And the benefit of Deed, as we've stated before, is that it doesn't hit the main combo piece of Alluren, which means we can cast it, and if your opponent does nothing, not wanting to overextend, you can still just play your combo.
Right. And again, I mean, Ryan's basically playing no interaction. It's all well, I guess he's playing 2 Powder Keg. That doesn't affect Pernicious Deed, but that is technically interaction.
It's still solid against these 1 and 2 drops that Ty has that are integral to the combo.
There he goes.
Okay, here we go. We had a turn 3 Deed through the sphere. Man, look at this mana base, right? We've got this Gemstone Cavern on 2 counters and this Riftstone Portal. And, I mean, we've got 2 drops on the battlefield. So this Deed is going to take care of a Diamond and the Winter Orb. Well, it won't hit the Winter Orb because we still have to untap. So,
Oh, you definitely wait a turn. Ryan has to try to set up a Tangle Wire or something pretty quickly here.
Sure.
To keep Ty from ever getting to 2 mana, which is going to be pretty tough. He literally has to have something this turn if Ty has an untapped land in play. Right, I just heard Ryan say that's not fun. Pernicious Deed is not fun. So he's trying to figure out what the hell he's going to do because, Pernicious Deed is a silver bullet against his deck for sure.
All of his winning conditions require committing to the board. I think the best strategy right now is, Wasteland, and then, maybe play a Mishra's Factory and, Mox Diamond and Mishra's Factory your way to victory, I think is now the new plan. And even then, Pernicious Deed still hits the factory. So,
yeah.
It's...
And even now, if Ty has an untapped land, he can wipe the board. So.
And he does. He does play a Stronghold. So now we have 2 mana sources online, untapped. We can wipe Ryan's board as is. Obviously, I still think it's, Ty can sit behind this and force Ryan not to play to the board and choose his moment to, wipe the board and then untap on his turn and cast his Alluren and win the game. So this is the perfect spot Ty wants to be in against Ryan's deck, I think.
Yep, he's got the right now. He has the 2 mana. Even if a Tangle Wire comes down, he can choose. Yep. So Ryan's does nothing past the turn. Passes the turn back. If Ty can play another land here, then he insulates himself against the threat of a Tangle Wire. But even the Tangle Wire would just make him pop the Deed. It wouldn't even stop it from happening. So now
we can activate Deed for 2 without losing a counter on a Gemstone Mine, which is even better.
So we had a question from the chat about how did Deed come into play. So it was 3 lands, but one of them was a sack land for 2 mana. So that was 4 mana total to play the Deed on the turn that he played it. So he played it through the Sphere of Resistance.
Good old Fallen Empires All-Star Havenwood. Whatchamacallit. We just went over this. How did I forget this already?
Yeah, I mean, that's just not, I just went immediately out of my short-term memory. It's just not a card that you ever really see, I think, besides an Alluren or maybe Balancing Tings or whatever.
I answered my own question with Fallen Empires All-Star. So that's why we didn't remember it.
Yeah.
All right, so here's what we do. We do decide to give a counter. And And Ryan's got a port and has taken some damage from this Ancient Tomb. He's at 14. Ty took one off his City of Brass to go to 19. And now Ty has a real opportunity here to maybe commit to the board. If he's got another, untapped mana source, he could cast an Alluren if he's got one in hand. And just putting that on the battlefield is huge. All right, we're casting a Wish.
Living Wish, yeah. So he didn't. Well,
There's
actually,
still
there
at
are
least
only
one.
There's still at least one.
At least one in the deck. Assuming he did not want to. Oh, there's still a mana source in the sideboard. Wow. Okay, so we're gonna wish for a land source, which I guess is, he could have just saved 2 mana and boarded it out and put it in his deck. But here we are.
I mean, it's hard to know. I mean, I know that part of Living Wish isn't necessarily to deal with disruption or anything. It's like, I've got one of the pieces in hand that I need.
Sure.
I'll go get the other one to win.
Yeah, just a wild card combo piece. I mean, that is fair. And, we've discussed an Alluren build many times, and I usually check out because it gets way too complicated and all these sort of intricate combo lines. And you may just need the Living Wish to just kind of balance out some percentage points here.
Yeah, for sure.
So Ryan's going to follow up with a Tangle Wire.
He's not in a bad spot. I would not say that he's in a good spot, but he is buying time until he can set something up. I still don't know how many cards he has in hand. It can't be many. I mean, he played a Mox Diamond, discarded a card. He kind of just like played a bunch of cards pretty quick. So I'm guessing he doesn't have too many in hand.
I think his biggest challenge now is just the mana disparity. Tangle Wire is going to slow Ty down, but Ryan's also going to have a hard time, casting anything because he's got this Ancient Tomb and he only has, he'll only have, one mana source available next turn? And now Ty's got a creature that can attack Ryan's low life total. That just gets lower if Ancient Tomb gets tapped more. Now, it's just a 1/1, but hey, here we are.
Yeah, and Ryan's going for the 2 mana. I don't know if he has something in hand that he wants to play, or he's just assuming that, his way out of this is to just keep casting things every turn. But he's...
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, right? Because if Ryan has another Soul Land, then he suddenly has 4 mana, and he's caught up with the mana game, and, that's that. All right, so we're going to take 2 more and go down to 10 and play a Winter Orb. Ooh,
Winter Orb is good.
Okay.
It's good. Do we know the life totals here, or?
Yes. So Ryan is at 10. Ty is at 16.
All right, 10-turn clock, baby. Let's see it.
And
it's tapped from Tangle Wire, so he can't even attack this turn.
That's funny. Just for you, Lorian, if you poke into Zoom, you will see I have shared life totals there.
Got it. Thank you. One of the 26 windows open on my computer right now.
Correct. I look like NASA Space Center right now, getting all this together. But here we are. It works. Okay, so Ryan has found a way to equalize the mana game by just saying, hey, you don't have any anymore. You get 1 per turn. And this is Tangle Wire is also going to tap down this creature for a little while longer, so for at least 1 more turn.
Yep, and Ryan will have the mana next turn to play another Tangle Wire, or I guess it's on his turn, so he's trying to decide what he wants to do here. Okay. I guess he has decisions to make. He has multiple cards in hand. He has decisions to make.
Yeah. The thing Ryan has to be careful about is if he just stops locking up the board, because he's run out of life and can't cast this Ancient Tomb, then if he gets too low, these creatures just suddenly attack and kill him. Yes. But if he doesn't use the mana, he just loses life anyway and still doesn't get to cast spells.
Yeah, and this is an interesting line from Ty. So Ty decides to tap a land with the last counter of Tangle Wire instead of tapping the creature and just get in for 1 damage. So
I like that.
He may be too far away from doing anything else that he just wants to get the chip damage in. We'll see if it's, it's hard to know what's in his hand and what his sort of long-term strategy is. I guess he sort of is betting that killing with chip damage is going to be quicker than killing with combo.
The only way I would keep a land untapped is if I had a 6th land in hand to then play a 2-drop. because my relevant 1-drops aren't really going to get me where I want to go. And I'm interested in playing either a Wall of Roots if it's still in my deck, or Mesmeric Fiend. Or even a Cavern Harpy, right? Get 2 power on the board. But if I'm not doing any of those, specific things, then yeah, let's just get in, pressure the life total. Ryan's down to 7. He's got this Ancient Tomb, and now we've played this Umbilicus, which is not free like it used to be.
It's a little bit, I guess it's a liability really for only 1 turn, because this next turn, Ryan can untap a land, bounce a land, or no, he needs to bounce the Tangle Wire unless he has one. And if he has a Tangle Wire in hand, he can bounce, untap, play another Tangle Wire. And that's very tough for Ty to beat.
Yes, it will be tough.
But this turn, Ty gets to bounce a land, untap a land, and has 2 mana to do something with, maybe play another creature.
Yeah, I mean, he gets to reset his Gemstone Mines now, and now he's going to play a 2-mana creature and Mesmeric Fiend. Ooh, this is a problem.
That's a good play.
Because now Ty...
he's got 2 power on board at 6. Ryan's at 6 life, and he gets to see Ryan's hand. Yeah.
All right, I want to see Ryan's hand. Come on, Ryan, show us. What do you got? All right, so we've got 2 Oaths. Okay. Oh. And we have no green source because we deeded away everything. Okay, so we have this sphere that isn't worth casting anymore. We have this E-tutor for nothing. So if I'm Ty, I'm probably taking the sphere just to make sure I can cast spells. I don't think I care about the Black Vice and can't get rid of the Oath. So
maybe you take E-tutor,
that's fair.
Trying to think about the lines of how you could lose. It's like Ryan gets a white source, casts E-tutor, and gets some kind of silver bullet you can't quite figure out.
Yeah, that's a reasonable thing.
Happening.
Yeah, letting your opponent tutor is bad.
Yeah. Maybe as another Mesmeric Fiend, he takes 1 Oath and hopes to grab the other one before Ryan can cast it. I think that Black Vice and Sphere are kind of irrelevant. That's the only reason why I might not take Sphere is just because
I agree with that assessment. Yeah, we've got, in order to cast the Sphere, we don't have to take damage, but we still have to let 2 land untapped, and I don't know if we'll have that. And then that doesn't do anything against the 2 power on board. So we've got 3 turns without using our city or our Ancient Tomb to find a green source, is really what this is.
All right, so Ty takes Black Vice. I guess kind of thinking that he wants to take a win condition. And it's something that...
we saw the other 2 win conditions. I'm not sure that's... I mean, that's fine. If Ty has a big hand, maybe he loses this game by runner, Black Vice.
Yeah.
Maybe Ty can't have 7 cards in hand.
Yeah, I think Oath is the most dangerous card here. So maybe you take that one. Someone in chat is saying, yeah, take that and try to hit the other, because those are the legitimate 2 win conditions in his hand.
I think this means Ty does not have another Mesmeric Fiend, or his plan is to just do this now and then grab the Tangle Wire when it gets bounced back to hand. Oh my gosh, are we tapping both Ancient Tombs? That has to literally win the game right now, or prevent Ty from attacking. Tangle Wire will... Tangle Wire will go ahead and tap these guys, but you'll go down to 2, and then as soon as you get to untap, you're dead.
Go down to 1 because of the mana burn, unless he has a follow-up, which I don't think he could have.
Chat has pointed out we can bounce the Fiend and recast it potentially. So there is an option there. Now we'll get this card back we don't care about, but that's fine. We can just cash this in every turn. I don't know, if we have the opportunity to attack with Fiend, I don't think we bounce it. Now if we play Tangle Wire.
Yeah, you only want to bounce the Fiend if you think you can get something more relevant, which if Ryan is playing off the top of his deck and is about to play whatever he has, then you didn't choose any of the cards before. You'd have to have a reason to choose them now.
Sure.
It's a tense game. It seems
Yeah.
like it's in favor of Ty, and Ryan has few ways out, but it's a strange deck. It's always hard to know exactly what this deck's outs are.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think Ryan's best outs are to draw a green source.
Yes, for sure.
And he didn't do it this turn, so he's going to take 2 next turn and be at 4, and he's got that turn to do it. If he does, he gets to cast the Oath. He'll drop down to 2, and then he'll Oath into conceivably something that will keep him alive. Probably Nishoba. That is usually the go-to in this format.
Yeah, so long as he's not at 1, because
Yes.
Nishoba does not have lifelink. It has a trigger, so if
Yes.
his life can go to 0 before he gains the life, unfortunately.
This is very true.
Yeah, so Ryan can't think of a way to live.
Now, ironically,
yeah.
Ty does have the way to beat an Oath by just bouncing his creatures with Umbilicus. So, like, if he thinks that that's a possibility, he could heads up play here and, like, bounce one of his dudes. I think.
Man,
I don't think that's where Ty's head. I think Ty's head is at deal 2 damage as many times as possible.
3-turn clock, I think, has to be the plan here.
Yeah. Chat also pointing out Ancestor Chosen would be solid. Gain some life here. All right. Well, we're gonna battle for 2. We have decided that this is our plan. Ryan will drop to 4.
He can no longer tap both Ancient Tombs.
Correct. He will get to untap his port, but I think the real thing, I don't think he's interested in tapping any of those things. I think he wants to just, I guess you're right. So he gets to untap port, play his untapped green source if he's got it, and go from there. Oh, we have a deed.
Another deed.
Oh no.
This is interesting. So he's shoring up. Instead of going for 2 more attacks to win the game, he's trying to shore up losing to Ryan's nonsense by casting Deed.
I think this is fine because it means he cannot lose to Oath this turn. I think he knows that Ryan could get a green source and cast one of his Oaths. And if he does, we at least get to blow up the board. But the problem is, if we blow up the board, then Ryan gets back his Vice. Now he's at 4, so, conceivably he drops down to 3 with an attack before he blows stuff up, but he doesn't have much mana. So how is that all untapped? He had 2 tapped Rishadan ports, right? Did I miss that?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you.
I thought he was only going to get to untap one of those ports. He must have untapped one and bounced one. That's what he did.
He bounced one.
Yeah.
Sure
Okay, cool. Guy knows how to play his deck. I'm cool with it. Chat coming in right after we figured it out, so I feel happy about that.
But remember, the stream is on a delay, so
Right, exactly. So we had time to figure it out before they knew we didn't know.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not going to realize that until after the fact. So time travel's weird, folks. Just get on with it. All right, so let's do the math here. Ryan drops down to 2, is able to cast this Tangle Wire. So untapping only 1 land, we're not going to get the option to do much here. So we keep everything tapped, but we do bounce a land with Umbilicus and play it again. Ryan is priced into bouncing something every turn, or he dies to his Umbilicus.
Yes. So now Ty has the option to untap the Battleground next turn. He has 2 mana.
Yeah. And not just that, he can untap and activate that for 2 if he wants to, or he can play a land. Like he has a land in hand that we know about because he didn't recast it, so he can then play that even, depending on what his mana sources look like. But yeah, now we can activate. We can activate for 4 next turn because we can activate Havenwood for 2 green mana, and this Stronghold, sacrificing the Mesmeric Fiend for another 4, and Wrath the entire board on Ryan's side. And then we get to just deploy everything on Ty's side, because I don't believe Ryan has a full grip. Although I suppose we know what is in his hand. He's got the 2 Oaths, the E-Tutor, and the Sphere. And a Mystery card, if I'm looking at the camera correctly.
That looks correct. Yes.
Okay, so he's got 6 cards. That's not technically a full grip, but here we are.
It's pretty good.
Now, notably, this is Ty's second deed. So if we blow it up now... Ooh, okay. Yeah, if we blow up the deed now, we've got one answer should things get sideways again. But hey, look. I think we'll get to... Let's see. Tangle Wire's on 3, so it's going to... Powder Keg is going to get to 2 before we get the opportunity here.
All right, so Ty chooses to return Tower to his hand. So now he can sacrifice Mesmeric Fiend to blow up Deed for 2, should he choose to.
And then next turn... Oh, we discarding the hand size. We're discarding a land. That's fine.
Yeah.
So
that seems like a... Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that seems like a good play because the key card there is Winter Orb. He blows up Winter Orb. He gets to untap. Tangle Wire isn't nearly such a big deal in that case, so he's got quite a bit of mana. He could actually cast Alluren, I think, next turn. If he does that.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I think what's important here, too, is that if we really want to, there's a couple ways we could do this. We could blow it up for 2, and then if we have Alluren, that's good enough. It protects us against Sphere. But if we want to get rid of this Umbilicus as well, and the Tangle Wire, we could conceivably do it for 4 mana next turn. We do sacrifice, some resources to do so. But maybe this is all we need to do. We can blow it for 2 right now, and then, we're tapping 2 lands, which is, maybe a problem. But then, maybe we can just cast the Alluren and go for it.
Yeah,
we have a land drop in hand.
Too. So port's a bit awkward.
Yes.
Okay, so Ryan is doing port now, which is really interesting. So he sees the play where Ty can get 4 mana total. So he's doing it now, so Ty can't. So Ty has to make the choice right now. Do I blow it for 2 or do I do nothing for some number of turns?
Even if he... activating port now means you still can't tap this Ancient Tomb that you've got. You can still Umbilicus your Tangle Wire back. So if I'm Ty, I know Ryan can't get rid of this Pernicious Deed. I'm fine, letting this stuff happen. And eventually I'm going to untap and murder the board. Ty doesn't want to play that game though. We're just going to actually blow up the board for 2 and under. Umbilicus. Why is Umbilicus going? Okay, it's not. We just, got a little antsy there. Hasty. All right, so Ryan still doesn't have the means to cast this Tangle Wire again. So that is real.
Yeah, and Ty could cast Alluren if he has an untapped land.
Which we know he does, because he bounced a land and hasn't played it yet to cast this Haven, or to play the Havenwood instead.
Yeah, so he just needs Alluren, and he discarded an Alluren, which makes me think that he has one.
Oh yeah, he's got to have one, which is all he needs, because he doesn't even need to combo. All he needs to do is cast creatures at the end of turn, and enough so that we can attack with 2 power. That's all that is required here.
Yeah.
And we can just decide not to. Like if Ryan gets a green source, we can just not cast anything. But you're right, he is thinking.
Because he's in a really good spot. I mean, I can see why Ryan did what he did, because he didn't want the Umbilicus and the Tangle Wire to get blown up, but he also left himself... he's not affecting Ty's untap here at all.
All right, so Ty has enough mana right now to cast Alluren.
Yes.
So we don't even need an untapped land source to do it. And then all we need is some creatures that can attack for 2. That's it.
So unless he discarded his... Nope, he's got it.
Oh man, come on, Ty. So much suspense.
He's just yeah,
Oh, he
he's
passes.
got it. No. He just messed up the umbilicus trigger, so he's just taking 2 because
Oh,
it
sure.
would have made more
Okay.
sense for him to bounce a land, but he drew, so he's
Yep.
just being a good guy.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Cool. And I'll take another one off the city. Go down to 12. Cast this Alluren. All right. Shields are down, Ryan. What can Ty do to you? A grizzly bear will seal it. All right. There's 1 power. And
He
it's
might
going to
have
go
a
fetch another. We're
combo.
just chain these. Let's just chain these. We'll get 3 power. That's good enough, right?
But you can do that as an instant, right?
Yes.
So it's
And it
definitely
is too
better-
slow. This is the combo. I think this is all you need for the combo, right? You can do
Oh yeah,
this.
you're right. Yeah. Oath is too slow now.
Oath is too slow. So we're already like, I don't see how Ryan beats this board position by itself.
I think I'd still wait. I don't know how you get punished if you wait until Ryan like plays a sphere. Is Alluren casting, or is it just putting it into play?
It's casting, so you do cast
Okay,
them.
yeah. So you wait until so you wait at least until Ryan plays a sphere,
Right.
and then you go off if you don't have the combo.
Yeah,
I
I'd
don't
rather
really
make
see
Ryan
how you
commit
get
mana
punished
to a
from that.
losing proposition to give him the ability to untap and do anything else.
Yeah.
This should be the combo win. I do think it's possible some of the combo might be boarded out or in his graveyard.
He doesn't have it. I mean, it's just
Just Mesmeric Fiend.
I guess maybe he has it. I don't know. I guess it depends on what else is in his hand. If this is all that he has,
He may actually have the rest of the combo in his hand. This is true.
yeah,
And just
he totally could.
be grabbing something. Okay, trigger, draw a card.
Oh, can he like? He can if he can return. Is it possible for him to like return Mesmeric Fiend with Cavern Harpy?
Yes, you can
Trigger
do
on the
that and just
stack,
get
yeah.
rid of the
So
card. Yes, and
He's
that's
gonna
exactly
so he's
what
gonna
we're
take his
doing.
hand. Yeah, he's gonna Hypnox him.
Yep. And that is Ryan reading the writing on the walls. He's not going to get an untapped step with any relevant cards in hand. And that's going to do it. So
Yep.
Ty looks like he's going to squeak this one out here. 2-1. What do we think
Yeah, so-
about that?
I mean, I think it's interesting play. I mean, I don't see any obvious mistakes that Ryan made that game, and like that, it's always a problem with a prison deck. You have to have all of the pieces come together,
Right.
and what ended up happening was Ty was in a spot where he could have 4 mana to blow up Umbilicus and Tanglewire with Pernicious Deed. Ryan chose to save those, tapping Rashadan Port on his own turn, and that gave Ty a very easy opening to play Alluren and win the game. But I don't know. I don't know what the better play is. Maybe if you see the Alluren go to the graveyard, be discarded, maybe then you assume that Ty has it and that's what you're trying to prevent, but who knows? I mean, Ty said he didn't have the combo. So the reason why he did what he did was to just Hypnox Ryan's hand
Sure.
to just make it incredibly unlikely that Ryan would be able to win. I don't think Ryan would have any single card outs at that point.
Yeah, I mean, all I think Ty had to do at that point was just cast, some 1/1s that can attack and make sure Ryan didn't draw anything to interact with that board state.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think Ryan's game plan with those Ancient Tombs was really just do whatever you can to prevent Ty from casting any spells, because as soon as that happened, I think it sort of snowballed out. Like we saw, there were 2 opportunities where we resolved Pernicious Deed, and that was enough. 1 wasn't quite enough. The 2 really sealed the deal. Obviously, stripping Ryan of his green sources had a very big impact.
Yeah, for sure. That was an early play that ended up having a huge effect. And maybe probably Ryan had them in hand and was waiting for Ty to play a creature before he deployed them.
Sure.
Then the deed came down and he wasn't able to. So I mean, it's tricky with Oath Prison, I think, in particular, because it's like you don't want them to get too much mana. That's the whole point of your deck.
Right.
You also kind of want to like give them the opportunity to play a creature that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So then they can like sneak, so then you can sneak in your Oath after that.
Sure. Well, alrighty, guys, that's going to do it for round 1 of tonight's festivities. But stick around. After this break, we'll bring you a second match with more middle school magic. So go ahead and stick around, and we will be...
welcome to the back half of Summer School Week 2. Scummer School. That sounds like a great.
Only the best scum
movie.
here.
We've got Andrew Webb and Miguel Garcia rounding out round 2 for us here. Andrew Webb back on his bullshit. He's playing Esper Taxatog that he used that to win Homeschool 2021, and then he got an invitation to the 2021 Invitational and won that event. So he's the one with that invitational playmat.
Yep. I just kind of never played a real, like maybe a few games of Vintage at our Invitational, and just crushed with Dredge. Even though we all knew to bring our Dredge hate. So now he gets to kind of do whatever in these leagues because he is invited back again to our Invitational by being the champion. So I guess he's deciding to run it back just to prove that he is still the middle school champion. Miguel, here's something I did not expect to see. Basic Mountain into Mox Diamond into Oath of Druids. So I love what is happening here.
A very aggressive oath. Maybe he's worried about duress or something like that from Andrew, so he just plays it out immediately. Yeah, so he's on what? Red, green, white oath.
Okay,
Sphere
what are we
resistance,
oathing into? That's the question.
Achroma, Bloodfire Colossus.
Love it.
That's it. Main deck. Got a Phantom Nishoba in the sideboard.
Sure. Alrighty. Well, I love what is happening. Seeing the mana bases in this deck are so weird, right? Because Basic Mountain into Oath of Druids is not something I expected, but I love it.
Yeah, not usually the color combo you see.
I think the last time we saw this, it was a burn deck that was oathing into Ball Lightnings, which was hilarious and wonderful.
Right. So Miguel is playing 4 Devastating Dreams. So I guess that's sort of like the big reason to play red here. Besides, of course, being able to hard cast your Bloodfire Colossus.
Sure. That does make sense. So we're going to see what happens next. I think we just saw Miguel's camera refresh here. Maybe Andrew needs to do the same thing. There we go.
There's some audio troubles, I think, on Miguel's side. He sounds a bit like a robot or something. So
I've done that. And most famously for me, although I'm sure no one has seen this video, I did a video for Red Elemental Blast for a global collector convention, and we all zoomed in and were streamed, and I managed to connect my audio, and I thought it sounded perfect, and I sound like a robot. So it is recorded for posterity forever as me as a robot. So I totally understand.
Robot Robert makes sense.
It does. Although I don't think anyone else who paid attention to that event knew that. So, oh well. All right. Well, Andrew's going to cast a Scroll Rack. Miguel's going to follow that up with a Winter Orb and say, "Hey, you can tap as much mana as you want, but only once." As Chad has mentioned, Scroll Rack is sad now. Very sad.
Yeah, and Andrew's kind of in a tough spot here. I mean, obviously, we talked about before, you want to kind of surprise your opponent with the Oath. You don't want to play it out in advance. But the thing is,
right,
Andrew has Meddling Mage, Cedric, Psychotog, a Fauna, Void Mage Prodigy, which is new. But they're all kind of like slowish ways to win the game. They're not going to beat most Oath targets. And he has one main deck Seal of Cleansing. That's basically the only way that he can answer Oath. So actually things are looking pretty bad for him at the moment. You know what? He has 2. If he knew Miguel's list, well, no, I guess Miguel can sacrifice the Bloodfire Colossus.
Yes.
But he can swords the Achroma for sure. Yeah, so anybody not familiar with Bloodfire Colossus, it's some ungodly costed red creature that's a 6/6. You can sack it and pay a red to have it deal 6 damage to all creatures and players. So it's almost like a direct damage way to win the game and to clear the board.
I was literally just looking that up. for exactly that reason. So Ungodly in this case does count as 8 CMC, 6 colorless, 2 red sources to cast this thing. And other than its activated ability, it is a 6/6 giant vanilla creature. So yeah, you'll need to sacrifice it for 1 red. So that means we need to have that open if we oath into it. But it does notably also hit Miguel. So you can't use that on its own to victory. Now, if you just, battle cruiser it into your opponent for a turn, you'll be up ahead and you can then oath and sacrifice it every turn. But past that, our goal here is a chroma.
Yes, which can easily get swords, unfortunately.
Yep, this
also
is
has
true.
a 1 of Black Vice. That's kind of interesting. A 1 of Black Vice.
Wow. Sorry we're giving away your secrets, Andrew. Thanks for playing on stream.
Oh, that's Miguel, actually. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's Miguel. Oh, no. I was like Black Vice in this deck. Holy moly.
Yeah. All right. So Andrew got his 1 seal of cleansing.
Okay. I mean, that doesn't beat these 4 Oath Druids, but maybe there's not another one hanging around.
Well, he has counter spells. So I think you just have to wait for the right opportunity, pop the Oath, put a win condition into play. I mean, he has 4 Meddling Mage. So you can just play Meddling Mage, naming Oath, blow up the Oath on the board.
Yes.
And then you maybe you play Swords. I don't know.
That's fair. That's reasonable.
If I saw Plains Oath, I would put my opponent on Swords. So that's something you have to worry about too. So maybe you have to go like Meddling Mage, Swords, Seal, Pop Oath. Hope your opponent doesn't play another Oath, and then second Meddling Mage for Oath to kind of lock it up.
Yeah, I have to assume that basic Plains implies a Swords to Plowshares in this format.
Yeah.
I don't know if
especially with Oath. I mean,
right.
Those 2 cards go so well together.
I can't imagine. The only deck that I think might not have it is Rebels has it. It's got to have Swords to Plowshares in that deck, right?
I mean, Rebels are so awful. The individual creatures are so god awful. They lose to all kinds of shit. That deck has to play Swords to protect itself against every other creature in the format, which is better than the average Rebel.
I'm back to my previous statement, which is basic Plains equals Sword to Plowshares. Show me a deck that has basic Plains and 0 Sword to Plowshares. I want to believe that it exists, but I don't believe that it does.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Chat sending out that the Inferno to Colossus when it dies does not kill a Chroma because it's protection from red, which I find very cute. Very cute.
Yep. Chat also pointing out that the replenished decks sometimes do not play Swords, so that's a great point.
Yeah, I'm on board. That is a tier 1 deck that doesn't play Swords. Okay, I'm about it. Now it's doing something absurdly powerful. It's a combo deck, mostly.
Yep. Chat also saying Enchantress doesn't play Swords. I think it's a pretty good sideboard card for Enchantress, but yeah, some Enchantress decks don't play Swords in the 75.
Yeah, you think you probably just want a way to like answer Meddling Mages or your opponent's other like random stuff. Okay, so this is good. There are some basic Plains decks that don't cast Sword. Thanks, chat. Appreciate that.
All right, so Andrew really highly valuing land tax, which makes sense. He's got Scroll Rack down. This is what this deck does. It just starts getting lands into hand, scrolling them away, drawing relevant cards. So his engine is now officially online. He can start scroll racking into anything he needs, probably putting away creatures and getting counter spells to kind of like get him. I'm guessing what Andrew's game plan here is like try to prevent Miguel from playing a second Oath, get in a position where he has both creatures and counter spells, pop the Oath, play a relevant creature, maybe a Meddling Mage or 2, like maybe try to get 2 Meddling Mages, and then just lock Miguel out of doing anything relevant at that point.
Sure. So notably, I'm looking at what this deck is kind of doing, and it reminds me kind of like old blue-white control with like Sensi's Top. You know, you kind of use Sensi's Top to just sort of sculpt, and you have these sort of cards in your deck that answer other things your opponent's doing. And I feel like Scroll Rack and Land Tax is kind of doing an impersonation of fetch land since he's top. In this format, it's probably more powerful than what that's doing in Legacy, maybe.
Yeah, I might go the other way. I might say that top is like a better version of the Scroll Rack, like.
Sure. I mean, well, in Legacy, yes, I agree with those cards.
But
I feel like that's kind of what's going on, right? So we're just trying to draw cards, answer each other's, answer your opponent's board, and then play a dude, play something that can kill your opponent. But
what I love about Andrew's deck, he was really, I think, the first person, at least in the Stones League and of any middle school decks that I had seen, to break Sea Drake. It's such a good card in this deck because it has evasion, it provides a fast clock, it combos really well with land tax, and Andrew even takes it a step further with playing Gush as well. So you can target the lands with the Sea Drake, Gush and response. It's just pure value.
I do like that quite a bit. Man, now I'm looking up at the exact text of Sea Drake because I'm like, how did we not think of this before?
I didn't know about it because it's a portal card, so it just never was really on my radar as a card.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so for those following along at home who have not encountered the great old classic portal card Sea Drake, 2 colorless, 1 blue for a 4/3 flying Drake, with the additional text of, when it enters the battlefield, return 2 target lands you control to the owner's hand. Yeah, no, this is great, especially if you're playing like Mox Diamonds in your deck. You can Scroll Rack them away if you don't need them. Gush them in response is even better. Yeah, you can gush them. That is sexy. I like that a lot. That's gotta feel great.
If you're in a position where you don't have 2 lands in play, that trigger actually fizzles. And because it's a portal card, you don't have to like sacrifice the creature if you can't. So if you've just got 1 land in play, like let's say 1 land to Mox Diamonds, you play Sea Drake, nothing happens. It doesn't target your 1 land because it has to target 2 lands specifically. So
oh my goodness,
even extra value that way.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah. So this deck can like play turn 1 4/3 flyer for for 3, no drawback. Jeez. Eat your heart out, saying Debbie Freet.
I guess apparently Sea Drake was very briefly good in Legacy. You could do, I mean, you can actually do that here if you wanted to, like Ancient Tomb, Mox Diamond, Sea Drake on turn 1.
Oh, sure.
And just try to hope that it gets there.
Yeah, just like a Lotus Petal. Like, that's good enough.
Lotus Petal, yeah, anything like that.
Man, now you're giving me really bad ideas. I'm going to brew a really bad aggro deck that apparently doesn't have any other creature support because Sea Drake's the only thing I can do.
Turbo Sea Drake. Yeah, I'm testing it right now in a Dreadnought deck because one of the big weaknesses of like just playing Dreadnought is that if somebody names Meddling Mage or, there's lots of ways to disrupt Dreadnought, but like Dreadnought with a backup, couple of Sea Drakes works pretty well in theory. Testing the deck, it is not that good of a deck, but I'm trying to do something a little bit different than just like the straight black-blue Dreadnought. But I think it's a solid. I mean, it's a fast clock, a four power evasion guy.
Yeah, especially if they take any sort of damage from a fetch or like an Ancient Tomb or something. All
right, here we go.
The Void Mage prodigy, Mr. Kai Boudet himself.
Yep. So Andrew has used his seal to pop Oath of Druids. So he's got 2 mana up to sacrifice the Void Mage, which is cute because if he needs to, he can either counter the Oath, counter something else so the Oath doesn't trigger.
Yeah.
Probably just going to get Swords here. It looks like that's what Miguel's thinking about doing right now.
Do we counter the Swords or do we just gain 2 life? It's 2 life, right? He's a 2/1.
Yeah, I mean, if you have another counter in hand, you obviously don't counter it with the Void Mage Prodigy because double Winter Orb is out. Yeah, how many other counter spells does Andrew have?
All right, yep, there's the Swords, called it. So we have tested the waters. We've officially proven. Man, this would be a good spot for double days. But we're just going to gain 2.
Double days would be pretty good there. That's fine. I think that's kind of like that's if I had to guess, that's probably just like a test creature.
Yeah.
I mean, Andrew's drawn like a million cards at this point. He's got double land tax going on, so he's got
land tax Sylvan
stacked hand. Yep, that's a good combo as well. Not quite as good as land tax scroll wreck, but pretty good.
Now we have the whole fetch. This is now we have a Sensi's top.
Yes, I think Andrew's in a pretty good spot here. I mean, Miguel only has 2 cards in hand. Andrew, I think, has drawn a ton of cards. If he deploys another threat here, 4 mana, interesting. Why did he play 4 mana for Psychotog? Am I missing? Maybe he did untap a land to Winter Orb or something.
I think just one of those islands. Only one island untapped because they were both tapped before. That's what I was hoping for the double days earlier. Just untap both islands that way.
Yeah, that would be pretty sweet. So yeah, Andrew's I think has a pretty stacked hand. Probably has like 5-6 cards in hand.
Yeah.
Miguel has 3 with the draw. Oh no, he gets to get Sylvan.
I'm thinking Andrew's probably got a force sitting around for an oath.
I would assume so. It's a tough position actually for Andrew. Like, yeah, if he has a force or 2, he's in a really good spot. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cards that he doesn't want to see that Miguel could play. Miguel does nothing though.
Now, we've seen some of these white cards that Miguel has. We've seen the green cards that Miguel has. What are the red cards Miguel has brought to the table here?
Yeah,
other than Bloodfire Colossus. Devastating Dreams, okay.
That's the big one.
Tell us what that does.
Ooh, gosh. It's a double red card. I don't even know if it's an instant or a sorcery. I think it's a sorcery.
Anything good in red was a sorcery back then. Unless
you discard X cards, and I believe it deals X damage to all creatures and players, and each player has to sacrifice X lands. I think that's pretty much what it does.
Wow, okay.
So it's a good way to like clear the board, and it pairs pretty well with land tax. Like, you have a Mox Diamond, you clear the board. If they play a land, then you just start going crazy with land tax and probably outrace them.
Sure.
Post Devastating Dreams.
So Devastating Dreams, I've looked up the Oracle text. It is red. It's a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, discard X cards at random.
Oh, at random. Okay. Yeah.
So that's important. Each player sacrifices X lands. Devastating Dreams deals X damage to each creature. So,
each creature. So yeah, I was like halfway right. I was like 50% on that one.
Notably, it does not kill a chroma. So
it does not kill a chroma.
So Miguel's going to try to set up something like that by playing the Oath of Druids. All right. So Miguel's at 13. Andrew is going to land tax twice. That's going to give a lot of cards to this Tog. Can Andrew deal the 13 damage now?
I think so. If he gets 6 lands, that's 9 damage alone.
Okay.
9 to 10. 10 with the Psychotog.
Okay. So we're 3 short. Now, notably, that does put Miguel in lethal range to sacrifice his own Bloodfire Colossus. So he can't do that.
True.
Also, that also has to get through his swords, which Miguel could have in hand.
Miguel could have a 1 of swords in hand, yeah. Okay, so he's going for it. 7, 8,
yeah,
9.
Sure. Your opponent played Oath. You gotta do something.
12.
Because you'll just get to fill up your hand again next turn.
13. Ooh, and Miguel didn't have a swords. I wonder if Andrew had a Force of Will and blue card in hand. I think it kind of looks like he only has 1 card left in hand. I don't know, but I think he just had to go for it there.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't think you're beating the oath, then, if you've done the math, then, yeah, then you don't counter the oath, and if you have a force and blue card, you just keep it up.
Yep.
Um,
And that's some very exact Psychotog mana with the days, because the days basically puts a card,
ooh, yes.
your card neutral in your hand, but you effectively put a card from that's on the battlefield into the graveyard, so that gets you a half point extra damage.
Yep. I like that. The more we're talking about this deck is sweet. The interactions with Psychotog and just all these other things that put lands in hand is pretty great. This is a cool deck. And it's not one that I've seen in a lot of places, although I haven't looked at a lot of places, so correct me if I'm wrong. If you've seen it, chat, if you've seen this deck around, let me know, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think Andrew kind of came up with that particular build and popularized it by winning that league last year. I had tried to build a deck, but it didn't have like the gushes and the days, and it didn't have Sea Drake. So plays Duress, and I think I originally played Vindicate, but yeah, it just needed something in addition to Psychotog. The problem with Psychotog in a deck like this is that you can't really have slots for Cunning Wish, which you really need to make sure to get through on the damage. Because Psychotog can just get like stuck on the ground and just get like stuck behind blockers. So it really needs a way to get evasion if it's the only threat. If it's not the only threat, then that evasion is not quite as important.
And I think that's why we see the inclusion of 4 Sea Drake, which
for sure.
is just better than Cunning Wish. It costs the same, but this interacts better with the deck, ironically. Notably, too, this is a blue-white deck. It only has black for Psychotog.
Yes.
Including the board. So, this is a blue-white deck. It plays sort of like a blue-white deck. We've got some card draw, some permission, some meddling mages, which, if you know the format well, meddling mage can be incredibly powerful. Chat asking if there's plague in the sideboard. There are some number of plagues, so I take this back. There is a black card, other than Psychotog.
3 E-Plagues, which makes sense. I think where Andrew's deck kind of is weak is to really aggressive decks. It's great against mid-range decks, good against control decks, good against combo decks. But against a really fast opponent, it can kind of struggle. So E-Plague is definitely going to help you there. So
against goblins or elves, sure.
Goblins or elves, yeah.
Maybe not against mono red. No, not against Sly, maybe.
Yeah, well, again, I don't
chill.
like.
There's chill and hydroblasts. So
chill and hydroblast, yep.
Yeah,
so
definitely something Andrew's aware of.
He fears the aggro decks. That's what his sideboard is telling me.
Basic Mountain, let's go.
Oh man, I wish Sly with green was good enough, because like with green you get naturalized, but it's like it just makes the deck so much worse that it's not worth playing. But man, all it needs is like, can you imagine a red naturalize in Sly? I feel like that would be pretty good.
So what you're asking for is Therios All-Star Destructive Revelry, which is exactly what we'd need to destroy artifacts, enchantments, and dome our opponent at the same time.
Yeah, that's all you need.
Yeah, no, I think it's so wild too, right? Back to the mana bases are challenging. You are mono red. Splashing a single color should not make the deck infinitely worse, but it does. And that's what's so crazy. I think splashing a second color turns off Fire Blast, which is a big pull to a deck like Sly. Sure. Because in order to cast your green spells, you have to have non-mountains. There are no dual lands. There are no shocks. You or either have basic lands with mountain subtype, or you don't. So I think, that adding a second color really has to add more than a couple cards for a deck like Sly. And at the moment, or I guess forever, it won't be, right? You have to build a different deck. Notably, I did play Sly against a green-red deck, and it was slightly slower and slightly bigger than me, so I got crushed. Played a Kurt Ape. He did play Earnham Dinge, which were big, and I could not beat them. I think it even played some number of Stone Rain, so it was like a Ponza thing, It was sweet. I got crushed. Jackal Pups look real bad.
Yeah, God. So Miguel goes turn 1 defense grid.
Ooh.
Andrew forces it, which is interesting.
Pitching Daze too.
Yeah,
I guess he had to.
I guess
he didn't have the land in play. All right, so there goes the Oath. We're gonna fetch. We're gonna see an annul. We're gonna see the annul.
I think I'd rather see the Daze, honestly, man. Daze is.
I mean, Daze is sweeter, but annul's the snipe, right?
Oh yeah, annul is obviously the better card for Andrew. I just like I always like the Daze.
I do like Daze. Oh, snipe!
Yeah,
Holy moly! All right, so that explains the Force of Will on there.
Yes.
All right.
It does.
Miguel's hand is sweet, right? Because we're turn 1 defense grid. If this resolves, I get to resolve my spells, and then if he counters it, what are the chances he's got the next counter spell? And apparently, the answer was he did. But that seemed like a great keep for Miguel. It's really unfortunate the cards just align so poorly.
Yeah, I agree. He had 2 threats by turn 2, 2 very strong cards by turn 2. I bet this, I don't know. I wonder what else is in Andrew's hand. I kind of feel like he must be out of gas just because it's like Force of Will, Daze, Annul. So he probably kept his hand on the strength of those cards, but may not have much else. Then again, he may have the nuts as well. The average hand isn't going to have that much more action. The nice thing,
that makes
is
sense.
That he has Scroll Rack, so he can, dig into whatever he wants here.
I mean, he's used 4 of his, or 5 of his first cards, right? 4 of his first cards. So he's gotten a draw step or 2. So he may not have much. Although, hey, look, here we are. I guess we name swords because we've gotten rid of at least 1 Oath.
Yeah, I couldn't hear what he named. So
I'm gonna assume swords because that seems like a heads-up play.
You have to do the swords the first time.
Oh, wow. Look at this Cursed Totem. I haven't seen Cursed Totem in these leagues in so long, and it is underplayed, and I love it. Psychotog now has no text.
Yep, just a 3-mana 1/2, which is pretty good. I wonder if Miguel knows about the Sea Drakes. Cursed Totem is very good against a deck, because he didn't see the Meddling Mage either last game, right?
No, he didn't see Meddling Mage, and I definitely know he didn't see Sea Drake. So unless Miguel is really up to speed on what our champion here is playing, and has played in previous tournaments, he may not know about Sea Drake. Because let's be real, most of us don't know about Sea Drake. Chat wants to know what Mage is naming. Best we've got is either Sword to Plowshares, maybe Oath. I think the default answer is probably Swords, so that we can't Swords away the Meddling Mage naming Oath. But
yeah, you're kind of priced into it, unfortunately. That's the
right. Now, notably here, Andrew has not seen a Devastating Dreams, so it's safe to assume that some numbers might exist in a land tax deck with basic mountains, but Devastating Dreams will be very, very efficient at getting rid of this Meddling Mage.
Yes. I think Andrew is a very heads-up player, so I think if anybody could put Miguel on it, it would be Andrew. But
sure,
it's tough. I mean, you may just there's all kinds of reasons to play red for Oath besides Devastating Dreams, so it'll be interesting to see. It'll be so what he could bring in Hydroblast. I wonder if he would even consider doing that. I don't think he even saw any red last game, right? He didn't see a single red card.
It's hard for me to justify. No, he didn't see a red card.
Seems unlikely.
Yeah. It's hard for me to justify that when that's... I mean, sacrificing your land is kind of a problem, but if you've got your own land tax in Mox Time, it's kind of whatever. Andrew's going to cast this Gush here, which I was just about to make a comment about how much extra land Andrew had, which meant he wasn't going to land tax anytime soon. But that's just incorrect. We're going to Gush, activate this Scroll Rack, pitch an island. We just returned to play this Mox Diamond.
Yeah, Gush Scroll Rack. You don't see that combo very often, but that's basically like a mini tax rack.
Yep.
I like that.
We still need a way to shuffle the deck.
Yeah,
But
so
otherwise, like,
Miguel-
it's fine, you know? Probably gonna play an island. Yep. Plays as one of
Yeah.
the islands and battle in
So-
for 2.
So Miguel has made one land drop this entire game, which is unfortunate for
Oh.
him. He has Devastating Dreams mana. Not much else.
Yeah, I mean, that was his opener was very solid, right? It was, you know, interactive defensive piece into combo. And it just his opponent was able to interact very favorably on those 2 turns that were very critical. And Miguel's hand didn't shape up because it was kept on the strength of those cards, which is very reasonable. I would have kept that
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah, for sure.
Just hasn't
So
panned out.
Miguel tutors for land tax, plays land tax. It can't be dazed. Andrew dazes anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So now Andrew can't be or Miguel can't use land tax against Andrew.
Yeah.
So now maybe Andrew is looking for a force of will here. It's unclear, but he's using the floated mana from the returned island to use Scroll Rack. So he can make a decision, you know. I mean, this is the nice thing with Scroll Rack is like you draw the cards, you can kind of figure it out. Like even if you get the counter, maybe it doesn't matter. So Andrew's saying this card does not matter. Land text does not matter right now.
I wouldn't think it does. We have the advantage. We have the pressure. And honestly, all we need to do, yes, we just play our own. And now this is stalemate, right? We can't really activate your own land tax, but you can't really play land to let your opponent activate theirs. And unfortunately, your opponent has a win condition on the board. So
Yep.
Miguel's got 6 turns to figure this out.
Yeah, I mean, if Andrew has another force of will, the nice thing about this board state is Miguel can't really cast 2 things in the same turn. I guess if he got a land, he could do like swords and something else, you know, but
Yeah. I mean, he could use an undiscovered paradise would be solid.
Yep, for sure.
That might help us here, but we're Scroll Rack again. Although without a shuffle effect, the Scroll Rack is really looking at the same set of cards. So
Yeah, it's like it's going one deeper
Yeah.
extra every turn if you don't make any plays.
yep. So Andrew's
So-
not. It looks like he's gaining cool advantage, but he's not really.
Yeah, not that much.
It's just this meddling mage is really just going to take us home here. All right, so Andrew's going to deploy
Ooh, Sea Drake.
a land, and Sea Drake coming in, bouncing these lands, turning on his own land tax. Oh my gosh, this creature does everything. And now suddenly Miguel has 2 turns instead of 4 to find a way out of this. So I think at this point, I would be inclined to cast Devastating Dreams.
Yes, definitely. There's
For at
2
least 3?
dazes, 2 dazes that have been played, so he probably won't get dazed, but he may get forced.
He can't get dazed because there's no islands on Andrew's battlefield.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So that's the important thing. Is Andrew scooping it up, or is Miguel scooping it up? Yeah, he can't cast these swords. We don't have Devastating Dreams.
Okay. So he named swords. Yeah, so Andrew named swords. which is
Holy
obviously the right one.
moly.
Oh, yep. So Andrew had the Force of Will plus the blue card to pitch. Yeah, that's how you write it up. I mean, like, this
Wow.
is like Miguel's deck is the kind of deck that I feel like Andrew's list really preys on. Miguel's deck has all kinds of answers, but Andrew's is just disruptive enough. It has the tax rack engine. It's a very good deck. It's a very good deck against most decks.
Yeah, it is. Wow. That was that's wild, man. Look at what's in Miguel's hand. He's got a land. let's see. Oh, he boarded out the Devastating Dreams, and he boarded out the Bloodfire Colossus, and the Winter Orbs. That makes sense. So let's see if he shows us. He brought in the Cursed Totem, I'm sure. Let's see if he shows us what else. What else he brings in? So yeah, Andrew had the Seal for Oath. He had Dazes and Force at Will. Yeah, wow. How wild is this? Well, I mean, hey, this is middle school, right? This sometimes happens. And Andrew's deck is designed, like you said, to do its thing, and it was able to do its thing pretty fairly well.
Yeah, Miguel was some bad luck. I mean, he literally he had 2 mana sources the entire game.
Nope, he kept a strong 7, and then it just didn't pan out afterwards. So
just fell apart to Daze and Force of Will.
Yep. But I mean, it's good to kind of see. I like the kind of tax rack with Oath, because I find most of the time, just the red-white builds, they dirtle a little too much for my liking. And sometimes they'll devastate the dreams, and that can be backbreaking, but then they still take forever to go back and win the game afterwards. Casting Oath is just nice and proactive because creatures are relatively king in this format. Every deck is playing them, even if they're not attacking with them. So it's a really good way to kind of take advantage of some of the powerful engines that Tax Rack can give you, but still be a little bit more proactive.
Yeah, I like the list. It unfortunately did not come together for Miguel in these 2 games, but I do think it's a cool deck. I mean, it's got. I feel like there's a strategy. One of the better strategies in middle school is just to fill your deck with really, really powerful cards. Just as many powerful cards as you can. Devastating Dreams is an amazingly powerful card. Mox Diamond, great accelerator. Oath of Druids, really powerful. Scroll Rack, land tax. He also had the tax rack combo. Sphere of Resistance, great card. So really powerful cards for Winter Orb. Just good, solid, powerful cards. Just didn't line up that well against Andrew, especially in game 2 where he just didn't have the mana to cast much of anything.
Yeah, Andrew being able to have free permission and just a number of these free spells, super huge, because it really put Andrew in the driver's seat. He could pick and choose what spells mattered, which spells did not, based on what cards he had in his hand. And yeah, game 1, we got to see the power of land tax and Psychotog do its thing to great effect. And then game 2 was just, hey, I'm going to play this creature that you cannot get removed from the battlefield, and make sure that you never have a way to activate your Oath, and that's all that I need. And that was enough. Now,
yeah,
Miguel's hand, draw definitely did not pan out. His starter, his opening hand was great, lined up poorly, and then it just kind of drew spells he couldn't cast, which is a recipe for losing.
And unfortunately, it appears that he boarded out Devastating Dreams, which, I mean, based on Andrew's game 1, I think makes sense because Devastating Dreams is probably not great against Psychotog.
Right.
You discard your hand, you remove cards from your graveyard, Psychotog sticks around, and Miguel has no lands. So I get that. If Miguel had known, I think about the Sea Drake and the Meddling Mage, he might have kept in the Devastating Dreams.
Yep, I'm willing to believe that. One of those things where it's just, this format's kind of wild and still surprising, and most Psychotog decks don't try to play other creatures. You might see Shadow Mage Infiltrator, but this was not a blue-black deck. This was, white-blue. If you know Andrew, you probably know if he's playing white-blue, he has to have Meddling Mage, because that's just solid. But, hey, maybe we didn't think that was that big of a deal. I don't know. Hard to say.
Yeah, hard to say. I mean, it's, the really fun thing about middle school is that there aren't a lot of, or there's at least a low percentage of net decks that people are playing. And so unless you I know the format pretty well. I love the format. I pay a lot of attention. Every time there's a tournament that gets posted online, I go through all the deck lists. I love looking at the tech, and I also look
Mhm.
at pre-modern as well. So I'm pretty up to speed. But there's a lot more variability in middle school than there is in something like legacy or standard or anything else. So
Sure.
yeah, you have to know the format well, and there's all kinds of weird cards and all kinds of weird lists and combinations of cards that you wouldn't expect that can really throw off your game plan, especially if you don't see some of those cards game one.
Strong agree. I love our little corner of the world where we play this format. It does have the benefit of having some spiky people playing, so you see some really smart, intelligent things without the visibility that some of the other competitive formats, can have. So there's still room for innovation. There's still room for new things. And I still think the format's big enough for the meta to shift and change and for old things to become new again. So it's wonderful. So I'm glad we had two really cool matches. We saw two very different style of decks play each other. It's been a blast.
I agree. Great night, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. We are done with our two matches for the evening. But tune in again next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. Central. We're going to bring two more matches for week 3 of our 6-week league. If you're new to the league, we will have 6 rounds for this league. We will cut to top 8. The semis will compete off camera, but then we will stream top 4 and finals. And again, those who win get invited to our end of the year invitational tournament. So if you haven't signed up to play in one of our events, please do. Our leagues are open to everybody, proxy friendly. And if you are in Texas and feel like traveling to Austin, or you're in Austin, come out to some of our in-person paper events, which are also typically proxy friendly. So it's been real. I hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. And thanks, Lauren, for joining us in the booth today.
Absolutely. Good night, everybody.